Why Musashi said you must burn the bridge behind you. Have you ever stood at the edge of a decision so big it felt like the ground beneath your feet shifted? At that moment where the next step could change everything or nothing depending on whether you commit or hesitate. That's where we begin, because this isn't just a video about a samurai. It's a journey into the soul of decisiveness, the psychology of no return, and the art of living like everything depends on this moment. Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated swordsman, philosopher, and warrior, once said something that most people gloss over: burn the bridge behind you. It's not just poetic, it's not just dramatic. It's a command that contains a truth so deep it can rewrite the way you approach life forever. Let's unpack this. When Musashi said burn the bridge behind you, he wasn't being reckless. He was being precise. He understood something that our modern world has increasingly forgotten: the danger of too many options. We live in a world of infinite tabs, endless possibilities, 1,000 backup plans. And while that feels like freedom, it often leads to paralysis. You see, when we keep a way out, we never fully commit. And when we don't fully commit, we don't fully transform. Imagine you're standing on a bridge between where you are and where you could be. Behind you is comfort, familiarity, and predictability. Ahead is uncertainty, risk, and the unknown. If that bridge stays intact, your mind will always wander backward. You'll hold just enough back to sabotage your own success. This is true in relationships, careers, creative pursuits, anything that demands your soul. Musashi understood that the path to mastery requires total immersion, not partial, not conditional, total. If the bridge is still there, you're not really walking forward, you're just testing the waters. But here's the twist: burning the bridge behind you isn't just about commitment. It's about identity. It's about becoming. You can't become who you're meant to be while still clinging to who you were. The old self has to die. The bridge is also a mirror. Holding onto it means you're holding onto a version of yourself that no longer fits. The warrior becomes a warrior not because he fights, but because he chooses to fight with no retreat. The artist becomes an artist not because she paints, but because she chooses to pour everything into the canvas, knowing there is no plan B.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
So, let me ask you something deep. What bridge in your life have you left unburned? What safety net are you secretly relying on, even as you pretend to leap? And more importantly, what would happen if you finally let it go? Musashi lived in a time when every decision could be life or death. But in a strange way, so do we. Not in the literal sense, but in the existential one. Every choice we make either brings life to our potential or death to it. And while the stakes might not involve swords, they do involve meaning, purpose, legacy. In that sense, burning the bridge behind you is an act of spiritual warfare. It's declaring war on your own hesitation. It's saying, I refuse to be half alive. Of course, this doesn't mean you act recklessly. Musashi wasn't a fool. He was strategic. He prepared endlessly. But when the moment came, he was all in. That's the difference. The preparation is necessary, but hesitation is fatal. We confuse the two constantly. We think that by keeping options open, we're being wise. But sometimes, keeping options open is just fear in disguise. Let's bring this into something practical. Think about a goal you've had for years. Maybe it's writing a book, starting a business, ending a relationship that no longer serves you. Now ask yourself, have you really committed? Have you crossed the bridge, or are you still standing on it, glancing backward just in case it gets hard? Burning the bridge means you write the first page like it's the only thing that matters. You start the business knowing failure is possible, but irrelevance is unbearable. You walk away from what's comfortable, not because you know what's next, but because you know what can't continue. Musashi's wisdom is timeless because it confronts a timeless fear, the fear of no return. We fear finality because it removes the illusion of control. But that illusion is what's been holding us back. When the only way is forward, we find strength we didn't know we had. We become sharper, more alive, more creative. The human spirit is most powerful when it has no choice but to rise. So here's the challenge: what would happen if you removed the exit? If you deleted the backup plan? If you stopped rehearsing failure and started embodying success? That's what burning the bridge behind you really means. It's not just about risk. It's about becoming someone who no longer fits the life they left behind. But there's more, much more. Because the moment you burn the bridge, something else gets activated inside you, something ancient, primal, and powerful. And in the next part, we're diving into that deep inner shift that only happens when there's no way back. The warrior's mind, unlocking the power that only emerges when there's no retreat. When you burn the bridge behind you, something profound happens, not just externally, but internally. You awaken a part of the psyche that has been dormant, numbed by modern convenience and the illusion of endless alternatives. This is what I call the warrior's mind. It's not about violence or aggression, it's about clarity, presence, and total alignment of thought and action. When retreat is no longer possible, your mind stops entertaining distractions. It sharpens. It quiets. You stop negotiating with fear and start listening to intuition. You become something else, not just someone who wants change, but someone who embodies it. You see, the human being is built for adaptation, but we rarely tap into that power because we don't put ourselves in situations that demand it. We keep life too safe, and safety, while comfortable, is also anesthetizing. It dulls the senses. It strips urgency from the soul. But the moment the bridge is gone and the only direction is forward, your entire being reorients itself. Your senses heighten. You begin to see clearly not just what's in front of you, but what's within you. That's the warrior's mind, a state of fierce presence where doubt is replaced by direction. This isn't just theory, it's observable in every great human breakthrough. Think of the moments in history when people were pushed to the edge and discovered something magnificent in themselves. Think of the mother who lifts a car to save her child, the refugee who builds a new life from nothing, the artist who finally creates something timeless after years of obscurity. In every case, the turning point was the same: there was no going back. There was no other choice. And in that crucible of pressure, something transcendent emerged. That's not coincidence. That's potential, finally activated. But here's the paradox. We rarely access this power because we avoid the very conditions that would unlock it. We fear discomfort. We avoid risk. We cling to the bridge because it feels safer than the unknown. But safety is a trap. It's the death of growth. And Musashi knew this. That's why he burned the bridge. Not because he was reckless, but because he was ready. Ready to become the person only hardship could reveal. So I ask you, what version of you is waiting on the other side of fear? What strength, what insight, what depth of character could be born if you just stopped giving yourself a way out? Have you ever truly met yourself in the fire of no retreat? Most people haven't. We live so carefully, so cautiously, that we never provoke the soul into fully awakening. But the warrior's mind doesn't emerge in safety. It only shows up when there's something real at stake. And here's another truth. When you burn the bridge, you don't just transform yourself, you reveal what truly matters. You'll see who's with you. You'll see what you're made of. And you'll see, perhaps for the first time, the full weight and beauty of your own agency. That's something no one can give you and no one can take away. It's not easy. Burning the bridge behind you will test you, shake you, and strip away the illusions you've built your life on. But it will also liberate you, because when you have no choice but to rise, you rise. You find new ways of thinking, new reservoirs of will, new levels of focus. And that's where greatness begins, not in talent, not in luck, but in the decision to go all in with no retreat. The question is, are you ready to meet that version of yourself? Are you ready to stop playing small and start living like everything depends on it? Because the warrior's mind is not reserved for a chosen few. It's in you. It's in all of us. But it only wakes up when we leave ourselves no choice. And now that we've opened the door to this mental transformation, we have to go even deeper, because the next layer is not just mental. It's spiritual. It's about identity, meaning, and the soul deep shift that occurs when you truly commit to a path without return. Becoming the path, why burning the bridge behind you is the birth of your true self. There is a moment, subtle but seismic, when the act of burning the bridge becomes more than a strategy, it becomes a rite of passage. This is the moment when the journey forward is no longer something you're doing, but something you are. You don't just walk the path, you become the path. And that, right there, is where the true self is born. Not in comfort, not in preparation, but in the fire of no return. When there is no longer a retreat to who you once were, you stop performing life and start inhabiting it. Think about this. So much of who we believe ourselves to be is shaped by the options we keep open. We leave doors cracked just enough to slip back into old versions of ourselves. We say yes to new dreams, but refuse to say no to the identities we've outgrown. We commit, but only halfway, and in doing so, we never fully become anything. We hover in the liminal space between who we are and who we could be, never quite landing either. But when you burn the bridge, when you eliminate the possibility of return, something extraordinary happens. You stop negotiating with your past. You step fully into your present. That's where the self is forged. Musashi understood that to master the sword, he had to master the self. And to master the self, he had to walk a path that allowed no space for contradiction, no space for doubt, no space for the old self to whisper, "You can always go back." Because that whisper is poison. It dilutes your focus. It fragments your identity. It keeps you fractured, forever chasing wholeness, but never arriving. When you burn the bridge, that voice dies. And in its place, a new voice emerges, one that says, "This is who I am now." This transformation is not about ego. It's not about pride or bravado. It's sacred. It's the moment you stop seeing yourself as a collection of past experiences and start seeing yourself as a living embodiment of purpose. Your actions align, your decisions gain weight, your presence becomes undeniable. People can feel it. They may not know what changed, but they'll sense it, the clarity, the conviction, the depth. because nothing is more magnetic than someone who has truly chosen their path. So ask yourself, who are you when there's nothing left to prove to your past? What kind of life would you build if you stopped trying to carry every version of yourself into the future? What would it feel like to finally let go, not just of a situation, but of an identity that no longer serves you? Burning the bridge behind you is not destruction for destruction's sake. It's an act of creation. It's the conscious demolition of everything that keeps you small, so that something greater can take its place. It's the moment the caterpillar dissolves into chaos, not knowing it will emerge as a butterfly. But it does, and so can you. Legacy over safety. Living a life that can't be reversed. There comes a time in every meaningful journey where the question shifts from what do I want to what will I leave behind? And that's where we arrive now. Because burning the bridge behind you isn't just about personal growth, it's about legacy. It's about crafting a life that echoes long after you're gone. One that can't be reversed, edited, or undone. A life lived so fully, with such intention, that it becomes a signal to others. This is what it means to truly live. Safety is seductive. It lulls us into routines, whispers that tomorrow can wait, and tells us that risk is for the reckless. But legacy doesn't grow in the soil of safety. Legacy is carved into the world through bold, irreversible action, through the choice to go all in, through the refusal to tiptoe through life, hedging bets and waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. Musashi wasn't remembered because he lived carefully. He's remembered because he lived completely. He burned his bridges not just to win duels, but to win truth. He left no doubt that he had lived with purpose. Can you say the same? What if today was the last day you could choose your direction? What if this moment was the turning point that future generations would study, not because you were perfect, but because you were authentic? Because you chose to step forward with no retreat. That's what burning the bridge gives you, finality that sharpens meaning. When you can't go back, you live differently. You speak with more weight. You love with more courage. You create with more urgency. You stop waiting to be ready and start becoming what the moment demands. And here's the raw truth. Most people will never get there. Not because they can't, but because they won't. They'll spend their lives circling decisions, waiting for guarantees, hoping for signs. But life doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards devotion. It rewards those who walk into the unknown with fire in their eyes and no map in their hands. With those who don't just talk about change but become it. So, I'll ask you one last time, what bridge do you need to burn? What part of your life, your identity, your story no longer serves the person you're becoming? Can you let it go, not just in theory, but in action? Because the moment you do, you'll stop chasing your future and start embodying it. Legacy is not about what you leave behind when you die. It's about what you leave behind in every moment you fully show up. When the bridge is gone and the only way is forward, you don't just live, you transcend. You become the kind of person who doesn't just exist, but imprints themselves onto the world. So burn the bridge, walk forward, and never look back. Because your real life, the one that can't be reversed, starts now.